getting on. Sat by the fireside, pondering on. Picture book, pictures of your mama, taken by your papa a long time ago. Picture book of people with each other to prove they love each other a long time ago. Picture book, picture book.
Gulfstream Park through the years, February 2nd, 1939, opening day here at the great GP by the Sea, as we continue to write a new chapter here, forthcoming throughout the spring and summer season of 2020. And as you can see, one of our favorite vistas with that winter circle cam. Things have settled down following a pretty active morning as far as training went on this Sunday, June the 28th. We have got 11 races, everybody. We welcome you to our third floor clubhouse studios here at Gulfstream Park. Jason Blewett, again, a good morning. Hope your weekend's going okay. And we're just getting settled in fact, and tied on for an 11 race card. No stake today, but still some good-sized fields, a lot of turf racing on the program, and you can't say Gulfstream Park turf racing without bringing Mr. Green Thumb into the mix, the one and only Ron Nicoletti. Ronnie, speed was pretty good yesterday on the grass, wasn't it?
It was exceptionally good on the grass yesterday. We'll see if that carries over this afternoon. And you mentioned got some really nice races, and we have a really nice jackpot guarantee of $500,000 in the Rainbow Six. So lots going on here. We started the day with a nice carryover in the Super High Five, so that's going to be something you could bet in the first race. Just goes on all day long.
It definitely does, and in a rare instance, it will go on a Tuesday here in Hallandale Beach. We don't have many Tuesday afternoons where the lights are on and the betting machines are open and the starting gate is in place, but that'll be the case here this coming Tuesday, June the 30th, my friend, with a 9-race card.
Yeah, that is the end of the fiscal year, so everything must go, as they say in those sales. So we got mandatory payouts in the Rainbow Six, in the Late Pick 5, and the Super High 5. So if it's not hit today with that $500,000 jackpot guarantee, we'll see some really nice pools on Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah, Tuesday's got some chunky-sized fields, and that card was drawn a couple of days ago, in fact, and we'll be running Tuesday and Wednesday. Do keep in mind it's a back-to-back cards on a Tuesday and Wednesday. If you can believe it, Ronnie, we were kind of joking about it almost in disbelief late yesterday that Wednesday is, in fact, July 1st.
Yeah, it's sneaking up on us today. It's hard to keep track and everything with this COVID thing happening around the country. So, but one thing has been constant: good racing here and good turf racing here.
Definitely. Now, in contrary to that, the first 3 races this afternoon will be run over the main track, my friend, and that'll be the opening 3 legs, naturally, of the early pick 5. I don't have a single in the opening dirt races. I obviously used 3 horses apiece in the early double. I used a couple in the third, and that looks like, to me anyway, a 2-horse race till the cows come home. The opening turf race on this Sunday, June 28th, Ronnie, is where I built this play around for $27. The speed and the return to turf, in fact, the turf debut for the 1 Grand Old Par, isn't he way the horse to beat because of that win and his running style in that field?
Well, with his running style and the way the track was playing yesterday, the turf course was playing yesterday, he looks very dangerous. And you get Edgar Zayas going for 2 in a row on Grand Old Par. I had a couple of other ideas in there, but it's a good single for you.
The 1 mile distance of this first race at about 12:05 Eastern as we start the card with a 3 lifetime $8,000 claimer. I think the biggest pre-race key or factor going in is this 8 furlong trip. And I mean, bluntly, I think there are many horses in this race that are long shots to get it. Or as D. Wayne Lucas said, that great quote, Ronnie, with the Kentucky Derby, I'm going to paraphrase it. They'll all get a mile and a quarter, yet some are going to do it faster than others, or some are going to do it slower than others. It was one of those great D. Wayne-isms. And in this case, I don't really love the last effort of the 9 Third Army. But to me, I looked at him this afternoon at not only being a horse who could stay this trip, you'd like to go into this thinking he's going to be maybe a little sharper than he was in that last start where he really just sucked up for third and did no serious running. But on the flip side, that was his first start in about 3 months.
And he's changing barns, going to the Murat Sal Khan barn today. He was having a really good meeting. And this one, returned from the layup and dropped to this level, as you mentioned, finished at third. The barn is really good with recent claims. Embassy Al Jaramillo, really good day yesterday with, I believe, 3 winners on the day. So just looks like the one to beat there. We both used the 6 London Werewolf in second, stretching out to the mile today after rallying to come within the neck of Notch in this condition. When second, that was going 3/4 of a mile. He's one of those horses you were alluding to who's got to prove can handle a distance today.
I think he's got the best recent form. In fact, maybe it's close between him and the overall, say, last 3 or 4 races of the 9 Third Army. But I might go in the who's sharpest category. I might land on the 6 London Werewolf. I really worry about him at crunch time getting the last furlong or so. We'll see if he's up to the task this afternoon in that Sunday opener. We'll bring on the 2-year-old fillies in race number 2 on the dirt, of course, going 5 furlongs with this $25,000 to $20,000 maiden claiming race. And I think any sort of discussion just doing this cold, Ronnie, well over an hour out, an hour and a half out from this second race this afternoon, you're just almost inclined to start with the number 4, Rock with Robin, by virtue of this filly having a debut under her belt, or one race under her belt, and a well-bet debut at that for trainer Kathleen O'Connell. I pulled her last start here. I thought it was worthwhile to go back and look at it and talk about it, just because she caught and wound up hooking 2 legitimate speeds to her inside, who wound up running 1-2 around the track that afternoon. This was not an easy trip for this daughter of Vancouver on a very hard 3 to 4 wide chase. And by the time they basically rounded the far turn into the stretch, she clearly was on empty. She was also quite green. This struck me as an effort that not only was pretty taxing with that 4 wide chase, she'll start to swerve in and out, nearly clip that horse that was right behind her, and she's out of the race at that point. I'm wondering, Casala may have looked better and ran better than Rock with Robin, but I'm wondering if we get that same trajectory that we got in yesterday's second with Kathleen's second time out with the very speedy Casala, who wound up wiring that field.
Yeah, that horse was very impressive in there. So I just think maybe with the move forward, I sort of backed off. I just thought the horse may need a couple of races, but you make a good point showing that this one had a chase 3 wide in there. I did go with the number 2, Sky is an Arundel homebred, daughter of Brethren, debuting for Juan Alvarado. String a solid morning workout showing. Boy, this barn has been going great with their 2-year-olds, and you get Miguel Vasquez in the saddle.
We've got Ralph Nix in the mix, and I just guessed. I guessed with Ralph's horse here. Considering the source, you've got this barn sending out the 3 Katie's Dream Girl. You've got Misael riding, and this looks like a pedigree to me slanted towards the win early, precocious side of things. And, I mean, as far as just straight-up numbers go, Ronnie, I didn't look at your stat you sent with Ralph. Let's check it out. I'm assuming this is a good category for this barn.
Well, I always love this stat with Ralph. Now, this is a 2-year-old first-time starter. These are fillies now. You got to remember this fillies. He does better with fillies. I just don't know why, but every time I pull a stat like this, amazes me. Maiden claimers on the dirty, 7 for 24, 29%, 46% in the money, and a positive return of investment. It's just one of those stats. He does great with these 2-year-old fillies making their first start. So you have a good horse on top of your ticket.
The third race will cap again the opening 3 on the dirt, and we'll sprint here. We'll stay at 5, in fact, with this cast of lower level 3 and up maiden claimers. And like I was saying with my early pick 5 ticket, between the 4 Sundown Kid, who showed why he was bet so strongly 2 back with an improved effort in his most recent start just last weekend, in fact, on June 20th, and the number 5, Storm the Bridge. This, to me, just looks like a 2-horse race between these 2.
Yeah, Sundown Kid sitting on that winning effort today after responding to both the drop down in competition and the turn back with that second place finish for Alan Mirage. Rajiv will be in the saddle today. Storm the Bridge, 2 for 3 in the money on the dirt, goes back to the main track. I think that's the one to beat. in there. I use those two myself. And Eagles Dawn, first time start, a bit of a guess with me with the horse for Jeff Engler. Really like the breeding, being a son of Tisnow.
Now, we ran 6 on the turf yesterday. There were 4 wire-to-wire winners, including a horse fairly late in the day who opened up by a good 10 lengths or so and still wound up winning pretty comfortably in a start to finish type romp on the engine. And as we get on to our opening turf race on the program, stylistically, I think with Edgar riding the boot, and he's so good on speed, and he just gets the simple fact when you're on a speed horse, and we can show Grand Ole Par's last race, coincidentally, this gelding by Cantharos, his first ever on the turf. Edgar's not a guy that's just going to play games and rate speed, and he understands you gotta play to your horse's strengths. And I look for an aggressive ride from the inside post. And although this horse is stepping up and trying winners for the first time, I think there is a very good chance and short price chance that the result is going to be the same, where Grand Ole Par just wires this field from the inside.
Yeah, the way that the course has been playing, certainly a major player in there. But I did go with the number 9, Super Shenanigan, who's dropping a notch on this after rallying wide to finish third. That was that good race, the 22 lifetime claimer that produced a couple of next out winners for Mark Cassie. Christian Torres up. I'm thinking, the number 1 Grand Ole Par, tough to win when you just break maiden. Maybe the speed on this turf course will carry that horse along. I wouldn't leave it off the ticket, and I threw that. We basically have the same Super just boxed around, and Dio Forte, you might be going the right way with the speed of these 4 horses that we picked.
Now, the 5th race, my friend, we'll go with a cast of 6, and we'll close things down and cap the early 5 on this June 28th. It's an $8,000 older claimer, and from where I sit, you've got a favorite. I almost toyed with standing alone with Jamaican, but of the pair, I prefer slightly Grand Ole Par. I think he might be slightly a more reliable favorite. But it's a very similar situation in the parallels, although a completely different kind of race here, most notably on the dirt compared to the turf in the 4th. Boy, you draw this up, and Jamaican, who's not really a 5/8 horse, especially against the likes of combination, may just wire the field today.
Yeah, this one, it's dropping to the $8,000 level, talking about Jamaican, and following that front-running score against those 62.50 open claimers at the distance, comes back, runs a good second in a race move from the grass to 5 furlongs on the main track. Looks like the speed in there. We both used Karen's Cove on a ticket who's cutting back to the 6 furlong distance today after surrendering late lead to a repeat winner that we know very well, Joe DiBaggio. That was going 6.5 furlongs. I'm in agreement. I would have used both of these horses on my early pick 5 ticket. I just think they're logical too, and I think if Karen's Cove gets the right trip, maybe could upset Jamaican a little bit.
No, Karen's Cove likely won't be that far off Jamaican. In fact, maybe pressing, so to speak, or tracking second or third with Christian out in the clear as the 6 Arriva Durla is on the outside. I do like the notion of dropping Arriva Durla down. You'd love to bang out that Florida bred allowance condition. This horse just isn't that kind. He's not that ilk. And after 30-1, 30-1, 20-1, I like that the basics, so to speak, are kicking into gear. This is a horse to me that although I think Jamaican's tough here, Arriva Durla is going to appreciate the drop down to 8 Gs.
Well, you go look down at his past performance. The last time Arriva Durla won was against those $8,000 3 lifetime foes during February. So the drop down, I think, as you said, is going to help.
We are on the turf for race number 6. It's coming your way after this quick timeout on Gulfstream today. Beautiful day for thoroughbred racing here in South Florida, Gulfstream Park. 901 South Federal Highway here in Hallandale Beach. Things have quieted down outside once again. Nice breeze was coming in off the ocean when I walked in, tweeted out a video of Panny Price. I timed it right, and Panny Price was jogging on the dirt with trainer Georgina Baxter. But a beautiful day. That turf course looks in tip-top shape, and we'll set our sights in on the opening leg of the Jackpot Rainbow Six at around 2:45 this afternoon, Ronnie. And speaking of green, like that turf course we just viewed from that tower shot into the far turn, there's a lot of green up for grabs. I mean, a lot of scratch with this six-figure guarantee.
Yeah, $500,000 jackpot guarantee. Got a $48.60 ticket, and I do have a single in race number 10, and I was able to get some coverage in the rest of the races. And I kicked it off in here with Summer in the City in race 6. That's the 7. She's Just Quality and Starship Malomar. And I went 3 deep in race number 7. Got a bit of a long shot in there. Not my long shot of the day, but I think Tetsu for Carlos Silva can run well on the turf course here. Also used the 12 Mystical Moon and Resident Liberal. And race number 8, Laura Min and Genghis, Tons of Gold. And race number 9, like Donji today, at 8-1 on the line for Elizabeth Dobles. But I did use a High Noon Rider and Fast Fire in there. And there's my single in race number 10. And it's the one Key Biscayne, who was really the exception to the norm when this horse won from post 12 last time out. Got a stat with Juan Alvarado, winner last out on the turf. So figured I'd single there, and I went 3 deep in the last race in race number 11 to get out race. And I think Trapezoid is interesting in that race.
That's a difficult cash out. You've got a very important grudge match and rematch. The first 4 finishers out of a Trapezoid's last race are coming back. I've got a couple of price ideas in the nightcap, but I'm with you 100% on Key Biscayne. To me, I looked at her last start and watching it just said, wow, that may have been the performance of the entire spring meet here on an individual basis. And we'll take a few different looks at her last win on the turf a bit later in the broadcast. But for now, let's again backtrack to the opening leg of the Rainbow Six. And I think you're in the right direction, certainly as far as prior turf form goes in this race, mainly with the 7, Summer in the City, and the number 2, Starship Malomar. They, to me, have the best turf form, although I obviously picked against both. What do you like about Todd's filly in this race?
Well, stepping back up to the special weight level, I see it as a lateral move this time of year. Solid second at the distance against those $50,000 maiden. A race that produced a couple of a trio of next out winners actually from 8 starters. It's Todd Pletcher, Edgar Zayas, atop this daughter of Summer Front. And I just thought the horse ran so well last time out. Didn't matter if they placed her back in the claiming ranks or put her in with these special weight runners. And that was my thought process with Edgar Zayas in the saddle.
The 2, Starship Malomar, will you make the argument? I don't particularly care for her, but I get the other side of the coin with her, and people that are saying, well, look, she seems to be improving and getting little by little with each race she runs.
Well, she's the horse that I thought if there's, the speed doesn't hold, she would be able to close, and she's eligible certainly to take another step forward. She rallied to finish 3rd at the same level and distance for Steve Dwoskin. Victor LeBron will be in the saddle today. I want to hear about this one horse here that you have on top of your ticket.
It's a Safi second-time starter in a race where just simply nobody scares me, and I'm willing to take a shot with the one pseudonym in this race. Fairly pricey filly by Hard Spun. And the way she ran first out and was big odds in that race, despite Safi and Amisael teaming up, I said, she may have just quite simply needed one, and this will be the spot. It was also a race, aside from her just not being all that good at crunch time, it was a race where just very little went right for her. From post number 12, and the fact that she's in a full field, and as they get closer to the bank of the clubhouse turn, you can see where I'm going with pulling this replay. She is a good 6 wide or so at this point, losing all sorts of ground, and she will resent the hard-held status, I guess you will, of Amisael Jaramillo, and her race was clearly left out there in the middle of the turf course in the first half mile or so. She never really fired after that, and you could tell she ran 10th and was beaten a dozen lengths or so. I got to think with Safi training her off that bad luck debut, she's just going to run a lot better in a race that does not have a standout, Ronnie. This is a fairly modest crew even for this time of the year.
Absolutely, and that's a good replay you put there. And just going from post 12 to post 1, you would expect improvement this afternoon. We got to see if that horse can carve on a nice trip, get out of the gate in a timely fashion, and not get knocked back. It's not a big field, so good pick by you.
We do have a big field, in fact, waiting in the wings in this Sunday 7th as we are on the grass at a mile and a 16th. And with that big field comes the opening leg that coincides with a late pick 5. Launching pad, kickstarting leg. I'm 3-7-12 here in a $27 play, and like Ronnie's single, I've been waiting for Key Biscayne to run back. She just blew me away with how good she was last time out, and I think she is favored in that race 100%, and like her, again, as a very strong type foundation in a 50-cent play for $27 with coverage in all the other legs, including, again, a 3-7-12 spread in this race. And talking about off the bat, including the number 12 Mystical Moon, I think basically dovetails into me the biggest dialogue of this race going in, and it's the fact that the number 11, I'm the captain now, goes from post 10. Mystical Moon, the 12, goes from post 11, and the 14, Smell of Roses, who drew in, now goes from post 12. Here's an up-to-the-minute recap, if you will, and record this meet at a mile or more on the turf from these outside posts. You've got 3 very interesting and major players. In fact, I would argue 2 of the 3 have the best turf form in this race over a recent span of time, Ronnie. Just a very tough place to begin, as these numbers and these fairly low percentages will attest.
Well, post 11 and now up to 7. It was low too, but we had a couple of winners from post 11 last week. Very hard to win. I always say this: maybe at a mile in the 16th, even though it doesn't show it in the stats, you got a little better chance if you're breaking from one of those outside posts. And Smell of Roses, I added on the bottom part of my ticket just because of that horse's current form.
Oh yeah,
but
it's a good move, Ronnie. I debated whether to have her 3rd or 4th. I'm glad, or him in this case. I'm glad you've got him in the mix, because he's a major piece to the puzzle, because he's just been so sharp.
Yeah, I mean, so I went back and looked, and he's a logical contender, but he's got to deal with that post, and that was a good stat. With that said, I went all the way to the inside, getting a little bit of a price. And this one is debuting locally at the 12.5 level. Responded to a drop down in competition. I thought ran a good second. Beating the nose. It was against 16 3 lifetime claimers. That was going that mile in the 16th on the Tampa turf. Carlos Silva does a good job up there. He's about 21%. I'm trying to get one of these Tampa horses to run well at a price. I just think that this is a good spot for this horse.
Sure.
In good form. I'll give it a shot in there, but you're absolutely right about the 3, Resident Liberal and Mystical Moon. Those are the 2 that I think are supposed to, on paper, win this race.
Yeah, no, I mean, in the case of Resident Liberal, maybe he hasn't run as well as a Smell of Roses or maybe even a Mystical Moon, but what he's been doing lately that the others haven't is just been racing in a consistent, tougher condition, chasing some quality Florida breds, and again, just the basics notion of Mary Epler dropping this horse a little bit to a realistic level where he drew well, like your long shot from the rail and Tetsu, and you've got, again, major players on paper who are just mired outside. Thought it was a race worthwhile, again, going inside posts like you did here in the 7th, Ronnie.
Yeah, Resident Liberal 2 for 4 at this distance, so that's another plus in that horse's corner. So we'll see. That's a wide open affair, to say the least.
The 8th race will go on the main, and I think many are going to draw it up as a 3-horse race towards the mid-pack and outside. From the number 5, who I picked, and you did as well, and lure him in, the 6 Tons of Gold. And the horse to beat is probably the 7 Genghis. And I should have, I blew it this morning. I should have pulled this horse's last start when he lost at 2-5. He had legit trouble. It was like a game of pinball, Ronnie, and he was the pinball. I mean, he was really bounced around a couple of different junctures in that race. I still, though, don't love the fact that Mike Maker had claimed him for 25 and just immediately ran him back for 25. However, that said, he's in good hands off the claim for Bobby D this afternoon.
Yeah, Bobby DeBoni will show you stat first after claim, all levels on the dirt at Gulfstream Park. He's 7 for 26, 27%, 46% in the money. 161 is the return investment, and you're absolutely right. This horse, just a really rough trip last time out. We'll see how the first off the claim with with him runs, but I still went with Lure Him In, who's dropping to a level on the claiming scale today after setting the pace and weakening to finish fourth against 40 claimers. That was an off-the-turf event at a mile. Ralph Nix, Embassy El Jaramillo, gelded son of Kozan. I like him a little bit better than I like Genghis and Tons of Gold.
Yeah, I'm with you on the 5, Lure Him In, just hoping he can get back. Third time off this layoff because he was in good form. The layoff that precedes his recent 2 starts, which have just been okay. I think they've been a cut below, even though the figures tell a different story. I don't think he's run as well as he did back in December and February, but I was hoping third time back against this field, it would be a good spot for Lure Him In. Let's get back on the turf for race 9. This is a pretty good race, pretty good field late in the card this afternoon, and boy, there is no shortage, my friend, of early speed in this spot. How will that affect a horse like the number 2, Donji, as we go back to his last start on June 13th? He got a good ride from Paco that day and was very game in victory. The horse that, again, we've talked a lot, even on this show alone, about wide posts. The 10 Morning Stride, who was coming back this afternoon off the claim for trainer Monica Magui, very little went right for him in this race as a 2-to-1 co-favorite, where you can see in that red cap and the yellow silks on the back, he was parked a good 4 wide, Ronnie, around both turns.
Yeah, he really had to get, didn't get that dream trip that you want. And there's Donji right there in the number 4 horse, and you see Morning Stride further back. And Donji, just with that speed on top, that's why I went with this one on top of my ticket. Ran a good race last time out.
And I guess with him, not only is he coming out of a very determined effort. In fact, when you pause this race, or if you were to pause it a mid-stretch, you're going, man, the 6 is just going to blow by him in this race. And, I mean, look how valiant and resilient he was down inside. Even hitting the wire just now, weeks after this race was run, you still can't tell who won that photo. And I guess not only do you have a strong last-out turf race with him, he's shown the ability to be a little bit of a chameleon where he can track horses if need be, and that might serve him well in this race, looking at the 6 Alien Invasion, who I think is a need-the-lead horse and over the top, and Charmel Sheikh on the rail, who's probably going to be involved early, too.
And what I liked about Donji, too, besides that, a previous winner, this race is 1 mile and an eighth, and he's won it the mile and an eighth. And you're right, he's got that tractability, so we'll see what Elizabeth Dobles and Sammy Camacho come up with. Donji, I 8-1 in the morning line, so I was looking to get a little bit of a price in there. I'm glad you showed that replay, but the horse you have on top, High Noon Rider, is dropping into this race for Safi. Very tough. Marco Maness is riding today. He's a winner of 50% of his local turf races, so he likes winning it right here at Gulfstream Park.
And his races outside of his last, and I was wrong. I thought he'd be favored last time, and the jump public was right, I was wrong, and the jump up against the Grand Journeys of the world was just a little too tough for him. Running against Belgrano and Delarna and just the My Point Exactly's and his form against horses like this was very good, obviously, basically late winter through early summer, and I like High Noon Rider as a very logical contender. In fact, he should be favored, I think, in that race for Safi on a slight dip down the class scale. Now, our final turf race goes in the 10th, and for Ronnie and I, it's about one horse. Win, lose, or draw. We're both living and dying as far as our Rainbow 6 and Late Pick 5 are concerned, with Key Biscayne, the rail horse, as a single. Going back and looking at her last start on May 23rd, it may not scream crazy good race on paper, certainly looks solid on paper, but in actuality, this was a trip I think very few horses would have been able to overcome. From that tough outside post number 12, she's just not getting anything going her way into that first turn. Now, Misa will be able to tuck just ever so slightly, but she's still a good 3 to 4 wide while chasing a fairly glib pace in this spot. Things did not get any easier for Key Biscayne as this race progressed. It wasn't a case where Misael was able to get her covered up around the backstretch. Now she's parked even wider. What is that, a good 4 to 5 wide or so? Putting in that run from the middle of the pack. She doesn't only win this race, Ronnie, though. She quite simply scampered away in watching this race at the time, she was a very big price. In fact, almost 23 to 1. I remember leaving the track this Saturday with my jaw on the floor. I mean, look at her kick away from this field.
Well, you showed that stat in race number 7 about winning from post 12. There's been 2 horses that have done it. Here's one of them right now, and it was a very impressive performance. Now going from the inside this afternoon, I just think this horse is off that performance, caught my eye too. And I have a stat on Juan Alvarado, winner last out on the turf. This is just over the past 2 years, 3 for 13, 23%, 23% in the money also, but a nice return of investment of $4.76. And the 2 years, because he just started really picking up the training for Arundel over the last year or about 2 years now.
Yeah, no, he's been training, had a lot of their 2-year-olds. Of course, him and Stanley Gold, who has since retired and a great guy. We hope Stanley's doing well. They had divvied up some of the older horses in the operation. But no, Juan is absolutely the man now and seems to have a Florida-bred filly by Brethren who is just going this way for sure. Who is the danger to her? Is it Safi's horse, the 6, Lovey in this race?
That's what I think, stretching out to the mile and the 16th. The return for Safi and finished third again at this level of the competition. The problem is she has a penchant for finishing second and third. 11 races, only that one win with 3 seconds, 6 thirds. I think if she finally gets some racing luck and the trip, maybe she can beat a horse like Key Biscayne. It was just so impressive last time out. And I also used the number 8 Drinks on Me in my try, and I'm still waiting for that drink that you promised me 2 years ago.
Are you being serious?
No.
All right. I say we'll go. I'll buy you a cup of coffee, Ronnie. What do you say? We'll call it even. You scared me.
He was worried there.
I try to be a man of honor and integrity, and I try to pay my debts. If I lose a bet, gotta pay up. So I'm glad you're only pulling my leg. I don't have a very good poker face there, Ronnie. Nor do you actually. What do you say we wrap up the show before we send it upstairs to Pete for the changes? First and foremost, as far as a pecking order goes, very important rematch off a very tight and blanket finish here in the Nightcap on June 5th between the first 4 finishers from the 9th race on June 5th, a race won by the 6 Candy Crush'em, who we both have third. You wound up taking out of that race Trapezoid, who to me was the horse that blew that race open and maybe in hindsight moved a smidge too early and lost a tough one.
Yeah, I like to turn back to the 1-turn mile. Surrendered that late lead when finishing second against, as you said, this familiar competition. Going 1 mile and 1/16. You're getting the apprentice Mario Fuentes, so you're getting the break in the works. I like to turn back to 1-turn mile for Gerardo Quiros in that race. And that was my thought. I used Candy Cove. I used Candy Crush'em. You used the 3, which I did not use.
I used the 3 Kraken Wagon. I like him today. I really do. I plan on betting this horse. I don't know what price he's going to be. Going back to his winter form here against easier competition, lesser races. I don't want to, mince words here, but he was one of the rare Woodbine wintertime snowbirds we had that really handled the main track and seemed to get better on the dirt here at Gulfstream as the championship season progressed, which is a rarity. A lot of those Woodbine synthetic horses just don't particularly handle the dirt down here. And I felt as though Safi made a fairly prescient claim when he claimed this horse back in mid-April. I'm drawing a line through that last race. This horse probably was over his head against Blue Buff, and the wet track was what really gave me the biggest excuse. I think he's got a couple of legit excuses off that last race, and if he's as good as I think he is on the dirt now with Safi, this will be the kind of field he can hang with, and maybe the 5 Snap Hook has got more to give. I'm thinking Jorge Delgado, much like Safi, may have picked up this gelding by Flower Alley at the right time for just $8,000 here on the 1st of May. Got a Misael, and I think there might be a little more to give in the tank this afternoon. It's a good little dirt race, though, Ronnie, to end the day for sure. These are tough horses.
Yeah, wide open affair, too. So if you have that couple of singles like Jason Iron have in race 10, you get another one, add a couple of more horses in that last race.
Well, we all got a single Pete Aiello. If Pete was in a race, he'd be the single bar none. What do you think?
Absolutely.
All right. There's that poker face again. All right, everybody. Sending it up to Pete, scratches and changes, and Ronnie and I will see all of you about 10 minutes before the 1st.